All right, everybody. Hold on. That was a dress rehearsal. Aha. Okay. The technology figured out. All right. Well, this is a great size crowd. Welcome, everybody. It's nice to see you here. I'm going to go ahead and call the May 13th Missoula City Council meeting to order, 6:03 p.m. If you will please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Thank you very much. All right. We'll go ahead and get started then. And for a roll call attendance here, Ms. Trimble, looking around, we have all 12 city council members and Councilor Jordan is online. So just want to make sure that you have that for the record.
I do, thank you.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, we don't have any minutes to approve this evening, and so we'll go to agenda item number 3, which is the committee schedule for May 15th. Ms. Trimble, do you have any changes or updates to that?
Yes, there was a slight change to the Climate Conservation and Parks Committee. We have decided to postpone the fiscal year 24 climate action update. I'm sorry, I don't know the exact title of that item, but it is going to be on the 22nd instead of this week. This shortens our meeting length from going till after 5:30 to ending just before 5 p.m. So we appreciate everyone's flexibility. We've had some long meeting days recently.
Excellent, great. And for members of the public in the audience and also online, just to let you know that committee schedule for May 15th is located on the online agenda. You can click on the calendar when you look it up on our website and access the committee schedule and all of the committee materials as well. All right. That takes care of that item then. And we'll go ahead and move on to item number 4. And also, I think for the benefit of the audience, since we have faces in the audience that we haven't had here before, as City Council has adopted a slight change to the City Council agenda. And so we have moved more administrative items up to the top. We take care of minutes. We take care of basically the opportunity for city neighborhood councils to present other special presentations, and then proclamations we read at the top of the hour, and then we move into basically the bulk of the meeting on items that are scheduled and that are posted on the agenda. And so for this evening, we do have 3 public hearings this evening. Then take care of basically all council business in the middle of the meeting. And then we move to, which includes the consent agenda. We'll move one of our consent agenda items to regular council business, and that'll give opportunity for council members to speak to that agenda item. And then we move to informational. And so that informational items are public comment on items that are not on the agenda, and mayoral and city council comments as well. But I do want to assure you that the public has opportunity to comment on items on the agenda all throughout. And I'll make sure that I call for those when it's time. All right, so we're going to go ahead and move on then to item number 4, which is special presentations and proclamations. And we do have neighborhood council updates tonight. And our first neighborhood council I would invite up to the podium is the River Road Council. And if the representative is here, please come on up and introduce yourself. Make sure that you say and spell your last name for the record, please.
Is it on? Yep. My name's Chris Foster, F-O-S-T-E-R. I'm on the leadership team of the River Road neighborhood. Just a couple major themes for tonight. At our September general meeting, we polled the attendees there, and the number one concern that residents in that area, in our area had was conditions of the sidewalks and the curbs in our neighborhood, especially on River Road in Curtis. And so that's one thing that they would like the city to address. That's the number one thing. I think everybody knows about money and money problems, but they don't see it as a financial issue. They see it more of as a safety issue. Trying to access the river trail or the Milwaukee Trail, for example. So it's a pedestrian issue as well as a vehicle issue. So that's the first thing. The second thing that brings me here personally, an incident happened in our neighborhood about a year ago, and we wanted to contact the city, but we realized we had no idea how to do that, and it was kind of embarrassing. So my neighbors asked me to volunteer for the leadership team, since I'm the retired guy who has time. And so I was elected in September, and they just asked me to learn what I can and then pass it on to them. So the city was nice enough to send me to the City Government Academy. I attended the working group on homelessness and just passed all that information to them. Now they all have nice 3-ring binders, and I was surprised. Their eyes didn't glaze over. They found it fascinating, and they almost all said that they learned something. So I thought that was a great thing. They asked me to find out more about the ballot issues, the fire levy and the government review. So we asked Mr. Drobeck and Mr. Keating from the fire union and fire department to give us a presentation at our leadership team meeting, which they did. We appreciate that. And then we had Mr. Badnock of the League of Women Voters come and give us a presentation on the how all the ins and outs of this government review, which was very, very interesting. So after a while, it seemed like it was getting unwieldy with the paper thing. So I was trying to steer people towards email notifications or text, and I got a surprising amount of pushback against that. People didn't like that idea. So out of that grew the idea of maybe putting a website or maybe putting a page on the city's website for a neighborhood update, newsletter type thing, just for our neighborhood, things that are of interest to our neighborhood. So we've been working with Melissa on a feasibility of that, and she's gonna get back to us at our next meeting of the leadership team. We're gonna discuss this in more detail, and I'm looking forward to giving you an update on that. And that's all I have for tonight. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Foster. Really appreciate. Before you go, I'll just mention that just in response to some of the points that you made this evening, and certainly council members can share more about this, there has been a referral made to direct the mayor to direct staff to work with our team to come up with some sidewalk alternatives. And looking at our existing sidewalk plan, it's been a conversation that periodically comes back to city council over the years, and it's ebbed and flowed in terms of local dollars contributing to homeowners improvements and the opportunity for us to see how we can best make connectivity, maybe even alternatives to cement sidewalks, if there's something that we can do to make connections to the trail systems and things like that. So we are looking at a June report back out, and of course that'll be a part of our budget process as well. So yeah, Councilor Vasecka.
I just wanted to thank you, Mr. Foster. You are fitting into this role quite nicely. Not only am I very impressed with you, but some of my colleagues have expressed how impressed and how thorough you are. So I just wanted to thank you very much for stepping into this role. I know it's a lot, and you take it very seriously. And not only do I represent the River Road neighborhood, but I live in the River Road neighborhood. So it's in really good hands with you. So thank you.
I'd just like to say that Ms. Vasecka was one of our first contacts. One of her, the ladies that you like to call your park moms, said, well, why don't you call her? And she sat down with my wife and I, and we had a long talk, and that she made some very valuable suggestions and actually got the ball rolling. So thanks for that.
That is fantastic. Thank you. And is there any council members' questions or comments they'd like to make before Mr. Foster sits? All right, not seeing any. And then just also for the, since you mentioned the ballot initiatives, both the Local Government Study Commission question as well as the fire levy, there was a presentation today on those two issues at City Club Missoula, and that is offered for free to watch on YouTube via the Missoula Community Access channel. So you could easily do an internet search and find that recording if you didn't get a chance to see that live today. So just wanted to mention that for folks. All right. Thank you, Mr. Foster. Appreciate you being here. Thank you for being so engaged. All right. We'll move next to our next neighborhood council update, which is the Lower Rattlesnake Council update.
Good afternoon. My name is Robert Schultz, SCHULTZ. And the Lower Rattlesnake leadership team has been tracking the issue of train horns now for quite a while at both the Taylor Street crossing and the Madison Street. We don't know where we're going with Taylor Street. Madison Street, we thought we had a solution a couple of years ago with wayside horns. We had funding. As far as we knew, they were going out for bids for somebody to install them. But then, as you all know, Montana Rail Link, their operations were taken over by Burlington Northern. Mayor Engen was a big backer at the time, but of course, unfortunately, he's passed away. So this issue has been smoldering, I think, down on the base or the bowels of wherever in bureaucracy, but we're hoping to reignite it and bring it back up to the forefront. The Lower Rattlesnake leadership team participated in the neighborhood cleanup on April 27th. We had pretty good turnout. We didn't find as much litter as we normally do, and I attribute that to another issue, which is the fact that almost all of the customers for both Republic and Grizzly Services, garbage pickup services, have now been switched over to bear-proof containers. And people were doing it voluntarily before, and now it's been the two companies have just gone in and essentially involuntarily replaced people's garbage cans with bear-proof cans. And I think it's made a tremendous difference in the amount of garbage, especially in the alleys. And then on April 3rd, the Upper Rattlesnake neighborhood and the Lower Rattlesnake neighborhood jointly had a meeting discussing and running scenarios and simulations of emergency evacuation procedures, essentially forest fires or a train wreck with hazardous chemicals or whatnot. And the turnout there was pretty remarkable, actually. I don't know what it finally was, but we had well over or maybe 100 people there, plus pizza. And then finally, the Lower Rattlesnake leadership team is following developments about what will happen with Prescott School. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that. It's in the Lower Rattlesnake at the base of Jumbo. It's been abandoned or unused for a number of years now. It had been used by the international school, but they've now moved somewhere else, so the building is sitting idle, essentially deteriorating, and we're just curious what's going to happen with the property. Any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Schultz? Comments? All right, Mr. Schultz, before you sit down, one thing I did want to mention is that we have had a recent meeting, myself and members of my team with Burlington Northern Santa Fe, as well as the Montana Rail Link. So we'd like to work with the ward representatives that are also interested in continuing to work on this solution. And we'd love to come and do a presentation and have a conversation at one of your upcoming neighborhood council meetings, or one of your leadership team meetings. That'd be great.
Yeah, I think we have one scheduled for June now. So.
Okay,
Yep.
all right, we'll reach out.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, appreciate that. And thank you very much for your service and all of your participation. All right, it's great to hear from our neighborhood councils. It's been really wonderful to have that part of our agenda again and have folks participating. It's really excellent. All right, that will move us on then to proclamations. So our first proclamation this evening is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so I'll go ahead and read the proclamation now. Whereas mental health is an essential part of overall health and wellness, and whereas mental illness affects significant numbers of individuals and families in Missoula, and whereas mental illness is linked to other social issues such as homelessness and addiction, and whereas stigma and stereotypes surrounding mental illness often deter people from seeking treatment, and whereas public education and open discussion can promote mental health and more effective treatment of mental illness. Now, therefore, I, Andrea Davis, Mayor of the City of Missoula in the state of Montana, do hereby proclaim May 2024 as Mental Health Awareness Month in Missoula, Montana. Thank you very much. All right. And now I'll move on, which many of you may be here for, but all right, I'm guessing. All right, excellent. Our next proclamation this evening is Robert Knight Appreciation Day. So, whereas Robert Knight was a lawyer's lawyer, skilled, creative, visionary, and whereas he loved Montana's open space, vistas, wildlife, the waters, and the fish, and whereas he spent his career working in real estate law, where he helped conserve thousands of acres in projects large and small across the state, and whereas he was influential in the passage of Montana's conservation easement law, which helps preserve open space on private lands statewide, and whereas working alongside Five Valleys Land Trust and the citizens of Missoula, his seminal conservation work was the quiet gift of his legal expertise towards the complex acquisition of Mount Jumbo. Now, therefore, I, Andrea Davis, Mayor of the City of Missoula in the state of Montana, hereby recognize the 27th day of May 2024 in proximity to National Trails Day as Robert Knight Appreciation Day. And P.S., Bob was also very funny. Is there anybody in the audience that wishes to speak on behalf of this proclamation? Oftentimes there are, especially when there is such a large group of community members that come in celebration of a significant situation like this. Please, come on up.
I'm Ellen Knight, and I was so proud of the work that Bob did on conservation in general, and the Mount Jumbo project was really very complex, and he donated his time for that. He worked with Greg a lot. And so thank you very much. He was pretty quiet about things that he did, but I'm really glad to have this proclamation. So thank you very much.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Mrs. Knight. And, Mount Jumbo and other conservation lands also speak to the previous proclamation in terms of mental health and the enjoyment and connection to nature, and something that that we continue to strive for all Missoulians. And so really appreciate the work of you and your husband, and thank you for the dedication all these years. It's truly, truly a treasure for Missoula. All right. Thank you, everybody, for being here for this special proclamation. Really appreciate that. You're welcome to stay for the entire city council meeting. But if you feel like you want to exit, it's perfectly acceptable to do so.
We're going to go have pizza.
Okay, go have pizza. Enjoy some of that fresh air outside. Oh, I'm sorry. Councilor Sherrill.
No one needs to sit down for this. It's not important. I just want to, it's not important that you sit for it. It's an important proclamation. And I just want to say, having spent many years of my life in conservation, you can't not know his name. And so I'm just really appreciative of the work that he did and the work that many of you here have done, but especially his name. And he was quiet in it. You had to kind of be in the conservation world to know all of his contributions. So I'm glad that we're having that proclamation. Thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you, President Sherrill. All right. Thanks for coming, everybody. All right, then. That wraps up item number 4 on our agenda. So now we'll go ahead and we'll move to public hearings. State law and city council rules set guidelines for inviting community comment in a formal way on certain issues. Following a staff report on each item, the city council and the mayor invite community comment. City council holds a public hearing on the item, and a member of council makes a motion, and a vote is taken. The public hearing and vote take place on the same night, unless there is a reason to hold the vote over to a later meeting date. So our first item is item 5.1. And it is an ordinance to rezone of 455 Mount Avenue. And I believe, yes, we have Tara Porcari here for the staff report. Ms. Porcari, go ahead and take it away when you're ready.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Just gonna share this real quick. All right. Hi, everyone. Again, Tara Porcari. I'm a planner with the Permits and Land Use Group. Like was mentioned, I'm bringing forward a proposed rezone at 455 Mount and 910 Brooks. The properties are currently zoned R5.4 residential and C1-4 neighborhood commercial with a design excellence overlay. And then they are requesting to both be rezoned to M1R-3, which is limited industrial residential, and they would keep the same design excellence overlay on the property at 910 Brooks. The rezone request is for a standard Title 20 zoning district, which means City Council may approve or deny the request. And then just as a reminder for everyone as well, that rezonings can't be conditioned, so it's just the approval or denial. So as you can see here, the subject properties are located at the southeast corner of Brooks and Mount. The current property line is shown in the dashed yellow there between the two. The property at 455 Mount consists of a single family residence with a large garage structure at the southeast. There's no vehicular access to this property from either Mount or the alley, so it's accessed through the parking lot of 910 Brook Street via private access easement. Then 910 Brook Street currently has a large commercial building that houses approximately 7 different businesses, as well as just general office spaces. And then as far as other surrounding uses in the area, there's a city park on the north side of Mount Avenue, a mix of residential detached houses to the east and southeast, and a mix of commercial uses to the east and west off of Brooks there. Like I briefly mentioned at the beginning there, the property at 455 Mount is zoned R5.4 residential, and the property at 910 Brooks is zoned C1-4 neighborhood commercial with the design excellence overlay for corridor type 1, and that's a node as well. And so this project is just a little bit different from most of the rezones that you're probably used to seeing, just in that a boundary line relocation is also being applied for concurrently with the rezone proposal. So as you can see on the slide there, they're requesting to expand 910 Brooks to include some of the existing 455 Mount property. In doing so, the Brooks property will gain the detached garage structure with the intent of using it to store an RV for the Missoula Vet Center's mobile outreach program, who are currently housed in the multi-tenant building at 910 Brooks. And like was mentioned, 455 Mount has no existing vehicular access from Mount or the alley. So even with the boundary line relocation, it would continue to only be accessed via private access easement through 910 Brooks. Generally, a boundary line relocation, like I just mentioned, can be completed administratively just through a subdivision exemption affidavit. However, in this case, completing that boundary line relocation without a rezone would result in 910 Brooks becoming a split zone parcel, which isn't allowed under our Title 20 zoning regulations. So basically, in order for that not to be the case, a rezone is required to create zoning districts that appropriately align with the new requested lot boundaries. And how this looks in terms of process, again, just since it's a little bit different, is that rather than the rezoning becoming effective 30 days after council approval like normal, if it's approved, it will instead become effective when the amended plat is filed, so that the correct zoning districts are applied to the new approved parcels, if that's what goes through. So with the proposed boundary line relocation, here's what they're requesting for their rezone. They're asking that the residential property at 455 Mount is rezoned to M1R-3 limited industrial residential, and that the commercial property at 910 Brooks is rezoned actually to the same, but then it will also keep the existing design excellence overlay on the entire property of corridor typology 1-node for that design excellence overlay there. And just in case we have anyone listening that's unaware of our design excellence standards, they apply some additional site and building standards to parcels on a lot of our major commercial corridors as well as downtown. That being said, with this rezone, there's no change to the existing design excellence overlay. Other than that, obviously it'd be expanded slightly with that boundary line relocation. So it would just gain a little bit of square footage. So looking at the growth policy, the two existing properties have slightly different land use designations, with 455 Mount being neighborhood mixed use and 910 Brooks being community mixed use. The neighborhood mixed use designation is intended to include a mix of neighborhood serving commercial uses as well as medium to high density residential development. Zoning districts that are noted as the most relatable in the growth policy for that land use designation are B1 neighborhood business, B2 community business, and what they're proposing, the M1R limited industrial residential. The community mixed use designation is mainly intended to include high intensity commercial serving general community needs, as well as kind of some high density residential intermix there. Zoning districts that are noted as the most relatable for that one are C1 neighborhood commercial, C2 community commercial, and again, M1R limited industrial residential. So obviously we see that the M1R-3 zoning that the applicant's requesting would be supported by the land use designations recommended in the growth policy, since M1R is relatable for both. And while no new development is being proposed at this time, the M1R-3 zoning does support a focus inward approach by encouraging some infill and mixed use development, as well as some possible increased residential density if that's how it ends up being developed. This is especially true for the property on Mount, since it would allow for potential redevelopment of housing or other commercial uses in the future that it currently doesn't. And just to be super clear, I'll note that the land use designation boundaries are based on the current property lines. So with the boundary line relocation and no rezone, existing zoning districts would no longer align with the land use designation boundaries. Since M1R is a current relatable district for both, though, it ensures that the applicant basically wouldn't need to pursue a targeted growth policy amendment when the boundary line relocation takes place. So that's super helpful in a much less major process. And then so since I know spot zoning is a concern that's been brought up a few times with rezonings lately, especially with our joint city council planning board, here are the couple of criteria that the state uses to acknowledge if spot zoning is happening. It's also called the little test, if anyone's heard that language thrown around before. Basically, though, we feel confident that this rezone petition passes the test, given the Montana Supreme Court's 2021 decision in Whitefish, which basically demonstrated that a rezone that complies with the city's growth policy or neighborhood plan will most likely pass by that second and third prong of the three-part test and therefore not be determined to be spot zoning. Just something we want everyone to be aware of from a legal standpoint, since having such a recent example has been super helpful for our planning staff as we've kind of worked with the city attorney to better understand how the state views these processes. So now the fun details in the weeds, a little bit of a comparison of what's existing versus what's being requested. For 455 Mount, the existing R5.4 residential zoning district allows for detached houses and lot line houses at a density of 1 dwelling unit per 5,400 square feet of parcel area. The current lot layout and zoning would allow for up to 3 dwelling units at that lot, assuming all other Title 20 requirements could be met, which could be a little bit tricky with parking and things like that, so keep that in mind. And then the proposed M1R-3 zoning district allows 1 dwelling unit per 1,000 square feet of parcel area. And that proposed zoning and lot layout would allow for up to 6 dwelling units, though, again, no new development is currently being proposed, and you'd only be able to do that many units if all other Title 20 requirements could be met. The R5.4 zoning district has a maximum height of 30 or 35 feet, depending on the roof pitch. The M1R-3 district has a 65-foot height maximum. The R5.4 district requires a 20-foot front and rear setback, and then a 7.5-foot side setback, while the M1R-3 zoning district does not have setbacks unless the parcel abuts a residential zoning district. So basically in this case, 455 Mount would require a 20-foot front setback off of Mount Avenue, and then a 7.5-foot side setback on the east property line since there's residential there. And then the R5.4 zoning district primarily only allows residential development, while the M1R-3 zoning district allows for residential, commercial, and some limited industrial development, which is in compliance with the growth policy vision for mixed use on this block. And then for 910 Brook Street, the existing C1-4 and proposed M1R-3 zoning district allows the same residential building types and similar uses, but the existing C1-4 zoning district allows maximum building heights of up to 125 feet, while the requested M1R-3 only allows buildings of up to 65 feet. So that'll actually be going down. Both zoning districts allow for a density of 1 dwelling unit per 1,000 square feet of parcel area, so no change there. And the current lot configuration would allow for 37 dwelling units. Setbacks are the same for both zoning districts, and then the proposed lot configuration would allow for 49 dwelling units, though again, for both properties, no new development is being proposed, and the only reason that's going slightly up is just because it's gaining some parcel area with that boundary line relocation. So here's the existing uses that the applicants provided for us that is in the commercial building at 910 Brooks. All of the existing uses fit under the proposed M1R-3 zoning, and no new businesses have been proposed at this time. That being said, any new businesses or additional development in the future would obviously be subject to Title 20 requirements and would have to be allowable uses if they went into that same building. In general, though, the uses permitted in the existing C1-4 and proposed M1R-3 zoning districts are actually quite similar. The following uses are conditional uses in the proposed M1R zoning district, but are permitted by right in the existing C1. So that's emergency homeless shelter, meal center, construction sales and services, enterprise commercial, and check cashing and loan service. Again, those are the ones that are currently permitted by right, but then would go to be conditional. Gasoline and fuel sales and residential storage warehouses are conditional in the C1 district right now, but would be permitted by right in the proposed M1R district. With the rezoning, the only new uses that would technically be permitted by right would be pawn shops, cremating, general motor vehicle repair, and limited recycling services. Vehicle storage and towing is prohibited in C1-4, but would be conditional in M1R-3. Overall, though, a lot of the uses that were permitted by right in C1, that's the current zoning, would become conditional with the proposed zoning, M1R, while just a few uses that are prohibited in C1 would be permitted by right in M1R. So not a ton of huge changes. Okay, I know certain members of council have probably seen this list and review criteria a million times, but for those of you that are newer to the process and also for the public, here's the full list of review criteria that we do look for when we're recommending the approval of rezones. Based on all the conclusions in the staff report, the criteria seem to generally be met with no major red flags. However, I'll kind of go through each of them. Our Missoula is the applicable growth policy, and we went over that in the previous slide, kind of discussing how the proposed zoning designation fits with the recommended land use designation. So we feel like that criteria is met. The rezoning will promote public health and safety by providing for residential, commercial, mixed use, and low impact industrial uses in an area that already has access to water and sewer, emergency services, schools, parks, as well as other urban services. The transportation criteria is met since it has frontage on easily accessible roads for vehicle transportation with street side sidewalks on all adjacent streets, as well as additional opportunities for transit and additional bike ped options close by. Mountain Line Route 6 also runs on Higgins Avenue, just 3 blocks east of the subject properties, and Route 7 runs on Stevens Avenue, just approximately 3 blocks west of the subject properties. The proposal supports adequate provision of light and air, as all future development activity will be required to meet internal and external building code and zoning requirements for activity area, landscaping, and building heights. A front and side setback will continue to be required at 455 Mount, protecting light for the abutting residential properties. The height maximum at 910 Brooks will be significantly reduced as well, which also protects light and air. Compatible urban growth and district character, as well as suitability of uses, are being met since the proposed M1R zoning permits similar uses and building types as are currently allowed at 910 Brook Street. And while allowing a broader array of uses for 455 Mount, it still aligns with the growth policy recommendations. And we also should note that it's a much smaller lot, which in addition to setback requirements on the front east side, will definitely end up limiting the intensity of development at that site as well, while trying to meet all the Title 20 requirements. Overall, though, allowable uses are well situated and supported with established urban infrastructure. The value of buildings and appropriate use of land is demonstrated by applying appropriate land use recommendations and by aligning with similar uses in the area, and while not correcting any area errors or inconsistencies in the zoning ordinance, we're seeing that the proposal meets the changing conditions in Missoula by aligning with growth policy recommendations. It's a mouthful. The rezoning we're seeing as being in the best interest of the city as a whole because the growth policy recommendations are met and it promotes development in a location with good connectivity and general access to public services. We've also only received one public comment at this time that was included in the project information packet. It was from the next door neighbors, and staff responded to them to clarify a number of the comments. But in general, their concerns were regarding the upkeep and taxes of 455 Mount, as well as a few just kind of general concerns about the possibility of any additional density in the area. But I'd recommend that you take a look at that if you haven't yet. Okay, and with everything mentioned, the staff recommendation is that council approve the adoption of an ordinance for the rezone. Again, noting that the effective date of the rezone would be the date the amended plat is filed for the subdivision exemption for the boundary line relocation. And additionally, the planning board recommendation was unanimously in favor of the approval. I've included the few clarifying questions they asked in the planning board summary and the project packet, but overall, there really wasn't much discussion, and there was overwhelming support for the rezone. So yeah, that is everything I have. I believe I saw both the owners as well as their consultant team are here as well. So if they have anything to add or want to be available for questions, I did see them on the call as well. And that is all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Porcari. Appreciate your presentation. We'll go ahead and turn it over to the owners or the owner's representative, developer, if anybody wishes to speak to the presentation now. Okay, not seeing anybody here in the room. And is there anybody online? I see a hand raised. There we go. So, Marias Hale with Eli and Associates, when you are, unmute yourself there, or Ms. Trimble will help unmute you. There you go. Go right ahead.
Okay. Hi, just Marias Hale with Eli and Associates. We're representing Kurt and Lanny Jacobson, the applicants. I don't really have anything to add. Tara, your presentation was really thorough, so thank you for that. Like she said, there's no development proposed. We were originally just proposing a boundary line relocation, but because of the split zoning, the rezoning kind of became necessary. So here for questions. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Hale, for being available. All right, we'll go ahead and turn this over then to questions from council. And, I'm sorry. Thank you very much, Councilor Nugent. All right, I believe we have a question here from Mr. Jacobson. Is that correct?
No, I just wanted to thank you guys for helping us with this. And if anybody does have any questions, we are on to answer them. We just want to be able to get this so we can keep our VA tenants and go from there. Thanks.
Excellent. Thank you for making yourself available, Mr. Jacobson, and joining us tonight. Okay, so we'll go ahead and open up the public hearing, and we'll start with questions from council. Are there any questions from council? Councilor Carlino, please.
Thanks. So with the design excellence overlay, for things like this, it makes it to where the cost of materials can be more expensive, and the amount of energy used on those buildings is going to be more energy because of like the glazing, for example, and the amount of windows required. Is there a way that we could amend to not have the design excellence overlay included in this?
Ms. Percori, or I say also Cassie Trepard has joined us.
Yeah, Cassie, I may have you take this one because obviously you guys can amend anything, but I think Cassie may have a few more comments as well.
Yeah, in the case of rezonings, I believe it would be a vote for it or to deny it. I don't think you can amend it if they requested that zoning. I will just give a reminder too that back in October, we did remove the materials requirement from the code. There is still glazing percentages though. But yeah, no material requirements. So probably the biggest impact of design excellence is siting the building toward the front of the site where the street is, trying to create a more walkable, pedestrian-friendly area.
Okay. Thank you very much. Are there other councilor comments this evening? Or excuse me, questions. We're on questions. Other questions tonight? Councilor Nugent.
Thanks, Mayor Davis. And you might have said this, Tara, but what is the size of the new residential lot?
Yeah, let me pull that up just so you guys can see it real quick. Share again. Somewhere around 6,000 square feet, but I'm trying to remember the exact size based on here. Oh, did I cover it up? Oh no, it's right there. 6,781 square feet.
All right, thank you.
Great. Other councilor questions this evening? Not seeing any in the room. How about online? Councilor Jordan? No? All righty. All right. So with that, we'll go ahead and, following our procedure list here, we'll go ahead and ask the Chair of Land Use and Planning to make a main motion before asking for public comment on this agenda item. So Councilor Nugent.
Thank you, Mayor Davis. I move City Council adopt an ordinance rezoning the subject properties located at 455 Mount Avenue and 910 Brook Street, legally described in Exhibit A, from R5.4 residential and C1-4 neighborhood commercial / DE-C design excellence overlay corridor typology 1 node to M1R-3 limited industrial residential and M1R-3 limited industrial residential DEC Design Excellence Overlay Corridor Typology 1 node, subject to the applicant filing the amended plat for subdivision exemption application 2024 MSS SEA 0003 within 180 days of approval of the rezoning, subject to review and approval by Development Services and Public Works and Mobility. Otherwise, the rezoning of the property shall become null and void, and the property shall revert to its original status. The effective date of this ordinance is the date the amended plat is filed for subdivision exemption application 2024 MSS SEA 00003.
Thank you very much for that. All right, so we'll go ahead and open it up to public comment and start with folks that are in the room. So anybody wishing to speak on this agenda item, please come on up. We reserve 3 minutes per public comment. We just ask you to say your name and spell your last name, please. Okay, not seeing any public comment in the room. How about online? Is there any public comment online tonight? I'm not seeing any hands raised. I'll just give it a second here. All right. Not seeing any public comment online either. Then we'll go ahead and we will close the public comment and turn it back over to City Council for council questions and or discussion. Anybody have any comments this evening? Okay, not seeing any here in the room. Online? Not seeing any online. All right, then we'll go ahead and turn this over to a roll call vote. Ms. Trimble, when you're ready.
Voting on item 5.1, the rezone of 455 Mount and 910 Brooks, beginning with Anderson.
Yes.
Becerra.
Yes.
Campbell.
Yes.
Carlino.
Yes.
Farmer.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Jordan. Yes. Melson.
Yes.
Nugent.
Yes.
Savage.
Yes.
Sherrill.
Yes.
And Vasecka.
Yes.
That's 12 in favor, none opposed.
Okay, that item passes. Thank you, Ms. Trimble. That concludes agenda item 5.1. Thanks for the staff presentation as well as the developers being here for questions. Thank you very much. So we'll move on to item 5.2, which is exclusion of tracts 2 and 3 of certificate of survey number 5850 from the municipal boundary. And I see that Mr. D. Grand Prix has joined us. Are you our staff presentation this evening?
All right, thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Good evening. My name is Dave de Grand Prix. I'm a planning supervisor with City Office of Community Development, Planning and Innovation, Development Services Division. I'm going to start sharing my screen and we'll run you through the nuts and bolts of this request. So the request is to exclude or remove property from the city limits, which is somewhat unusual, but happens from time to time. It's the exclusion of tracts 2 and 3 of certificate of survey number 5850. Montana law provides a process for removing or excluding land from municipalities. In this case, the property owners submitted a petition or 2 petitions to remove the properties. The process includes public notice, public hearing, resolutions, and along with removing private land from city limits, this also includes removing the municipal zoning from the properties, as well as street maintenance responsibilities along adjacent roadways abutting the property. So in terms of what the law requires, the criteria are fairly vague. The criteria are to remove the properties, City Council must find the land to be removed is within and on the border of city limits, that excluding the property is in the best interest of the city and its inhabitants, and excluding the property will not materially mar the symmetry of the city. You can see the property itself. So the city of Missoula here is shown in red. It's overlaid in a red tone. The subject property is located at the far eastern edge of the city. There are 2 tracts of land, of course, south of Interstate 90 and the Canyon River Golf Course and abutting the Clark Fork River, which is just to the east. It shows the property a little bit more closely. So in terms of surrounding land uses, you have Interstate 90 abutting the property directly to the north. Canyon River Golf Course there, along with the homes, are to the northwest. Storage units are located adjacent to the property to the west across Deer Creek Road. And Deer Creek Road, incidentally, there's mixed maintenance, mixed jurisdictions between the city and the county along it. Deer Creek Road itself is a 2-lane paved road, but not up to city standards. There are no parking lanes, no curbs, no sidewalks, stormwater facilities, bike lanes, anything like that. I mentioned storage facilities to the west. There's also a shooting range to the southwest and a railroad immediately abutting the property to the south. In Milltown State Park abuts the property to the south and southeast. The property is currently zoned in the city as R40, residential 40. And R40, this is an important element here because it provides for low density residential, civic, and some agricultural uses. The density that's allowed, or the development intensity that's allowed in R40 is 1 dwelling unit per 40,000 square feet. County zoning in the vicinity is also low density residential and agricultural. There's a rural residential, small agriculture across the river to the east, and also directly to the west across Deer Creek Road. There's also a resource and open lands zoning designation on Milltown State Park. If the property is removed from city limits, Missoula County is likely to zone the property with a rural residential zone. And in fact, the county has already scheduled a growth policy and zoning amendment. They're operating under the assumption that the city will remove this property from city limits, that it will revert to the county, and then the county will then adopt a growth policy and zoning designations. And I'd just like to let you know that city staff has been coordinating with the county planning office, county building office, fire department, or rural fire, as well as health departments on this project. The subject properties themselves are Tract 2, which is the western tract abutting Deer Creek Road. It's just over 27 acres in size. Tract 3 on the east, which abuts the Clark Fork River, is over 47 acres in size. So these are sizable properties. However, they have significant constraints to development. There is a high pressured gas line that runs northwest, southeast, kind of through the middle of the property. There's also a 250-foot wide Bonneville Power Administration transmission tower, electrical transmission tower easement that also runs northwest, southeast. And these easements take up quite a bit of the area. And finally, there is a small area in the northeastern corner of the property is inundated or is under 100-year floodplain as well. In terms of the project background or the property background, the city of Missoula annexed these properties back in 2007 and 2009 as part of the Clark Fork Terrace number 1 and number 2 residential subdivision. So the idea was that there would be an urban density that could support extension of city water, city sewer, could pay for street improvements, things like that to bring it kind of up to city standards. However, the subdivisions were never developed and all approvals have since expired. They expired in 2019. When the property was annexed, the city did not have a written annexation policy to guide growth and development. And so we're kind of doing, annexation policy backwards in a sense with this request. But it proposed today, looking at our annexation policy, there's detail in the staff report, but I'll summarize it. There's really a focused inward approach, of course, as you're all aware. That's been the city's kind of guide for or mantra for annexing property over the years. So this is clearly not a focused inward type project or property. And the focused inward approach, of course, focuses on mixed use, on more intensive development closer to city services, with a development pattern that provides for efficient delivery of municipal services in developed and developing areas. So in this case, I'd be surprised, frankly, if the city were to annex it today, if it weren't in the city limits already, because this really isn't a focus in. We're, as I showed previously, it's on the far eastern edge of the city of Missoula. It's far from services, and the city will have a difficult time, or would have a difficult time, providing services in a cost-effective manner. This is really the crux of the matter here, and that is the owner of Tract 2 operates a bee business. So think honey, think beeswax, things like that, and would like to simply develop an agricultural building for storage. There's an office component as well, but it's largely an agricultural building. The owner of Tract 3 only is talking about developing only potentially 5 large lots for kind of family type single family residential development. City water and sewer is located more than 1,500 feet from the tracks. And as it is right now, the city doesn't have fire flows, so the required pressure and volume to serve any new development off of the existing water line. So what that means is not only if these properties were in city limits under city policy, would an extension of the water line more than 1,500 feet need to be made, water and sewer, but also there would also have to be significant upgrades to the water system to meet fire flow requirements. So those upgrades are quite costly, and given the R40 one dwelling unit per 40,000 square feet zoning that we have, those types of upgrades are disproportionate cost-wise to what would be necessary to serve the future development, or it just wouldn't pencil out, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And then working with the county, it's been determined that fire flows like that are not required. There are different rules between the city and the county. And so based on all of this, the property owners have submitted petitions to remove their property from city limits. Again, there's been quite a bit of coordination between city and the county, and this is what the landowners would like. And so before you tonight is a motion to adopt a resolution to amend the city boundary to remove these properties, discontinue the zoning of the properties, as well as change the boundaries along Deer Creek Road so that it reverts back to the county jurisdiction. And then finally, representatives of the owners, the landowners are present tonight. They're in the audience, I believe. So I know they're here to answer any questions that you have, as am I. And I will now stop sharing my screen.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. DeCrampre. I appreciate your presentation, and we'll turn it over now to developer remarks and or owner representatives if they wish to speak this evening. And I do see somebody in the audience that may have raised their hand. I want to make sure that they're a member of the development team and or the ownership group here. If you are, you can go ahead and unmute your mic and share your comments, please. Mr. Dennert?
Hello, can you all hear me?
Yes, we can.
I wasn't sure exactly who you were calling on. My apologies. Let me lower my hand here.
That's okay, no problem.
My name is Joe Dennert. I work at the IMEG office in Missoula, and I am representing the landowner of Tract 2, Mr. Bert Bushner. First off, Dave, thanks. I think you really spelled it out. And you know, I don't have a lot that I'd like to add other than just a bit more context on really the steps that Bert's taken over the past 3 years. You know, this process started 3 years ago when Bert originally reached out to the city for Tract 2 to see if he could build his shop for his bee business. And it wasn't permitted in the then zoned R20. And that's when I stepped in. I stepped in 2022, and really I helped Bert get what truthfully was one of the fastest rezones pushed through. I think everybody saw, the checkbox elements of the rezone as a real hardship. And so we had to really actually reduce the density potential on the property twofold, going from R20 to R40, which it's zoned currently, just so we could be a permitted use for his ag business. And then, of course, fast forward another year, it's fall of last year, and we got the building permit package in, And then comes in the fire snag, which Dave did a really good job spelling out, 1,500 foot away from the nearest main. And fire has really strict policies for what needs to be done for a parcel that's in the city. And so, like Dave said, the crux here is that there are certain provisions and safeguards when properties are getting annexed these days to make sure that they can adequately be serviced for being a city property. And that just wasn't put in place here. So it is, in my opinion, proper housekeeping. And also this will enable Bert to get his shop up for his bee business, which he's been trying to do and jumping through the necessary hoops to do for the past 3 years. So I'm here and available for any questions. I actually think Bert is in the audience as well, if you guys have any questions for him. But I really appreciate your time. And I just want to say before I give up the floor completely, that Dave alluded to having worked with and coordinated with county staff, city staff. The building division at County Building Permit has been phenomenal. All city staff that we've been coordinating with. This took a really comprehensive, DRT meeting to get everyone on the same page. Rural fire, city fire. This has been a pretty big lift to get here. So the process has been bumpy, but it's been expedited, and I really, really want to say thank you to everyone involved. So with that, I'll turn it over there to Hannah. I see her on the line as well.
Appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Dennert. Hannah with PCI.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Great. I'm Hannah. I'm representing Jason Handy, owner of Tract 3. And I think Joe and Dave kind of summed it all up. I just wanted to add, Jason is looking at transferring 5 lots to his kids. It's not some development that he's looking to sell lots or increase density over there. It's really just a little spot for his family to build homes and live in Missoula. And I think that's all I have. I really appreciate all the time everyone spent, putting together these meetings and this research. It's a great effort on everyone's part, and I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thank you for those comments, Hannah. I really appreciate that as well. All right. Bert Wustner, if I hopefully I pronounced your name right. Come on up.
Pretty good. Thank you, Mary. I really appreciate your all your comments tonight for everybody here, and it's good to see Sandy again. And I'd like to thank Joe for helping me through this process. He's really been a big help in keeping me sane over this project. And we've been on that property almost 20 years as renters, and then the owner had an opportunity. He wanted to sell it, and it had already been put into residential, and we finally, just like Joe said, we got rezoned, and we're just going, we're going, well, all right, we can put up our building, and then here another year and a half or so, we're still sitting at the buildings on the ground. And I'm just so happy to be working with you people, and thanks all your council people for helping us out. I know that because we're in the bee business, and bees are a big deal these days, I'm actually selling a lot of baby hives to local hobbyists and stuff, so we can keep bees going and alive everywhere. And yeah, I just really appreciate all your input tonight, and that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you for sharing your comments, Mr. Wustner, and thank you for your business. Yeah, we want to keep bees healthy and alive. We like our agriculture of veggies and flowers, that's for sure. We depend on them, right? All right. Any questions? I'll go ahead and go back here to. I'll open up the public hearing and see what questions we have from council. Sorry. Yes, Mr. Melson, I see that you've had your hand raised. I'm sorry. We're ready for you.
Thanks, Mayor Davis. Question for staff, just on the 5 lots that were mentioned, would those be on septic or would those be on city sewer?
So I think the first step would be to de-annex the property, get it into the county, and then the owner of the easternmost tract, it would then apply to the county to have a subdivision exemption to create lots. It's called a family transfer. It's a way to create lots outside of the formal subdivision review process. But ultimately, to answer your question, it would be on wells and septic systems. And just incidentally, the Bert's Bee business on the 27 acres. They have received a permit. There's already an individual well in the ground, and they have received a permit to install a drain field as well.
All right, great. Thank you. And Councilor Nugent.
Thank you, Mayor Davis. Question for probably Mr. Sudbury. Can we condition a de-annexation, how do I want to put this? So that if down the road the city wanted to re-annex, they could not object to it? He's shaking his head no, but I should probably say it to the microphone for me.
I think so. This is a question that I considered before. I don't think that this should, it seems inappropriate to require them to re-annex if we desire it. I mean, first of all, in talking with, being part of the design review team that considered this, it seems unlikely that the city's going to get out that far based on the railroad and the I-90 overpass, just sort of limiting our ability to get water and sewer out there. Yeah, I'm going to say no. I'll have to look back on it. It seems inappropriate, but I can get you a final answer after this meeting in case this comes up again.
Okay. I appreciate that, and I can explain the question if people want. But
certainly, please.
Yeah, so we just, especially given the environment around property taxes and things like that, one of the questions that I think has come up in conversations, and I know Mr. Melson has heard this as well, is just residential properties that live right on the edge of the city limits that are otherwise city residents and benefit from all things City of Missoula, but then are not paying city taxes. So just kind of the conversation around if it was deemed that this is really should be part of the city down the road, are we losing that opportunity, or does it have to go through a standard annexation?
Thank you for providing that context. Yeah. All right, other questions from council this evening? Ms. Jordan, yes, Councilor Jordan, please.
Thank you. I'm just curious, we have one septic facility in Missoula County that has been servicing a lot of southern western Montana, and the city's just actually cut back on how much septic we'll take from the Bitterroot Valley because we're not able to really manage all of the septic that has been being brought to the facility. And so I'm curious if we know how many septic tanks our current facility can handle, and kind of what our thinking is looking into the future as more property in the county gets developed and gets put on septic tanks. What is the limit of our septic facility? Do we know that at all?
I certainly don't.
I don't know if any of the consultants on would have anything to add to Councilor Jordan's question there.
Okay, I do think it's an emerging concern. As building increases in Montana, a lot of folks are going on septic tanks, and we simply don't have the infrastructure to maintain all of the ones that are being built. And so I do have significant concerns that 250 homes on septic tank is really gonna challenge our septic facility.
Just for clarification, I'm sorry, Councilor Jordan, did you say 250 homes?
Sorry, I realized as soon as I said that there was a bit of a mistake there. Thank you for catching that.
No problem. I just wanted to make sure for the record, at least at this point, we believe there to be 5 homes planned for lot 3. But your point is well taken, and something we could talk about in terms of having that information readily available for council as we continue to do urban growth planning and planning alongside our partners with the county as well in terms of future growth. Councilor Vasecka.
It looked like Bert had a follow-up after Mike's question. I was wondering if that may be allowed, if you still did.
Certainly.
Yes, I was just wanting to say about you're talking about re-annexing the property, and the Hellgate Canyon winds blow all the time, not only just in the winter, but the summertime when it gets hot too, and just dries that place up. And the thing too is you got the highway noise from I-90, you got the railroad tracks, you got the shooting. There's there's just not enough stuff going on there to make it worthwhile where we are to develop homes and stuff. But anyways, I just want to say, and we're surrounded by the county too already. I mean, it was in the county, and somebody was trying to do, like it was already stated, that they were going to do a bunch of homes, and it just wasn't working out for them. So that's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you very much for your comments, Mr. Wissner. And before we move on to public comment, I just want to make sure that we don't have any other council questions before we make the motion here. Just looking around the room. All right, not seeing any other council questions. So then I will ask Councillor Nugent for the motion, please.
Thank you, Mayor Davis. I move we adopt a resolution amending the city boundary to exclude and remove from the corporate limits of the city of Missoula and discontinue city zoning for certain tracts of land known as Tracts 2 and 3 of Certificate of Survey number 5850 and adjacent Deer Creek Road right-of-way as shown in Exhibit A based on the findings of fact in the staff report.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. The motion is on the floor. We'll go ahead and turn this over then to public comment, and we'll start with folks in the room. Come on up. Please say your name, spell your last name, and limit your comments to 3 minutes, please. Thank you very much.
Big K Spitzmacher, Spitzmacher. May I ask, what does the septic systems have to do with the city of Missoula when they're in the county? That's a DNR regulation. That's not a city of Missoula regulation. The only thing you'd have to worry about if the septic systems don't work in a Pacific area, you'd have to absorb them by forcing of the Department of Natural Resources. Like Green Bay had to absorb 10 miles of a highway system to furnish their system because the bay frontage and so forth. I'm familiar with this area. I literally rode bicycle in there and so forth. This is no man's land, as the gentleman said. Be grateful somebody wants to use that land with the conditionals of the area. I'd rubber stamp this through unanimously.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Spitzmacher. Are there other members of the public? Mr. Moore, come on up.
My name is Bob Moore, M-O-O-R-E. I have to admit, I don't really understand this project of whatever it is, but a couple of things I would think I would like to know is what is going to happen to the property taxes? And why has no one considered what is going to happen to the property taxes? Are they going to disappear? And is this really the reason is trying to get out of the control of the, is the city and county? I'm not sure. I got 3 minutes.
So this is not a back and forth, but it is a de-annexation from city to county.
Out of the city?
That's correct.
So where is how much money is that going to be? How much reduction in city taxes or county taxes, whatever you want to call it, going to be?
Is that the remainder of your comment, Mr. Moore?
I'm sorry?
Is that the remainder of your comment this evening?
Yeah, because you don't pay attention anyway.
Thank you for your question, and thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
Other members of the public wishing to make public comment on this agenda item? All right, not seeing any others in the room. Are there any online that wish to make public comment on this agenda item? All right, not seeing any, then that wraps up our public comment, and that closes our public hearing on this agenda item. We'll move it over to parliamentary debate, council questions and comments. Are there any council discussion? Okay, not seeing any. Yeah, oh, Mr. Nugent, please.
Thank you, Mayor Davis. Just a little bit more context. I'm not concerned about the de-annexation right now. It's just we don't know what comes in the future. And when we make these decisions, just like annexing this in the first place, are we asking the right questions at the time? So that's kind of where that comes from, and the broader discussion of what impacts city services and who's paying for it. And just for general information, the city of Missoula runs the sewage plant for the broader Missoula area, and if a septic system is pumped, that sewage has to be disposed of somewhere. The city sewage plant has had to turn away septic waste from the Bitterroot, Ravalli County, because we have enough of our own. So, just clarification. And I can talk about septic if somebody really wants to, but I won't.
Appreciate you providing that context. Thank you for that. All right, Councillor Campbell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Perhaps a question for Dale in regards to the tax question. I mean, it's an undeveloped piece of land, so maybe just for the record, what are the tax implications for?
I was looking it up, contemplating that question was coming, so if you go to some other questions, I'll have it in about a minute.
Okay, well, we'll give you the Jeopardy tune here. Thank you for looking that up, Mr. Bickle. Are there other council questions or comments on this item? Yeah, Councilor Sherrill.
I'm just making a comment because Dale, I'm buying Dale some time back there. I think it's a good question. I'm excited that there's going to be the opportunity for bees to be there, and I think that we should not discount the importance of them in our environment. And so I understand everyone's questions around this, but understanding the confines of that property as well. I'm planning on voting for it. I am interested to hear Dale's response to the question.
Great, thank you. In the meantime, Councillor Anderson.
Yeah, I'll continue the filibuster to give Dale more time here. This is like an episode of The West Wing. I have a question and a comment. I would love to know where we may purchase some honey, and not only are bees great for the ecological system, but honey is really good for folks who have allergies, especially if you get honey closer to where you live, because it somehow, there's something in the magic of the honey that is supposed to help you with allergies that are, prone to where it is that you live. So it's a win-win all the way around. And I would love to have bees. My HOA does not allow it. So I'm dependent upon others for keeping all of that going. So thanks so much.
Thank you, and I'll just put a plug in for the Clark Fork Market, which is one place that you can buy Worcester honey. Clark Fork Market, located just below Karis Park on Saturdays. What's that? That's the one.
So, thank you, Madam Mayor. I just put all of that together. I already buy their honey. All right, it's great. I can attest to the knapweed honey is delicious in tea. Sorry, it took me a minute to get all of that.
Not a worry. All right, Mr. Bickle, looks like you're ready.
Yes, presume this is bare land. It's taxed as agriculture, so there's improvements in Montana tax code or where the value is. The annual tax bill for the bees, the tract, is $194 total.
And Mr. Bickle, that's currently?
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Great. All right. And any other questions or comments from council members on this agenda item? All right, not seeing any then. That wraps up the parliamentary debate, and we will go ahead and move on to a roll call vote. Ms. Trimble.
All right, voting on item 5.2, the exclusion of tracts 2 and 3 from municipal boundary. Beginning with Becerra.
Yes.
Campbell.
Yes.
Carlino.
Yes.
Farmer.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Jordan.
Yes.
Melson.
Yes.
Nugent.
Yes.
Savage.
Yes.
Sherrill.
Yes.
Vasecka.
Yes.
And Anderson.
Yes.
That's 12 in favor, none opposed.
Okay, thank you very much. That concludes this agenda item. That passes, and we'll move on to item 5.3, Thanks for the staff and members of the public that came in to present, and the owners as well. Thank you. All right, item 5.3 is a public forum for University of Montana parking lots and welcome sign, and we have John Sand here this evening.
Thank you, Mayor. All right, should be able to see that screen.
We sure can.
Great, thanks. My name is John Sand. I'm a planner with Community Planning Development and Innovation. Our departments received a notice from WGM Group and SMA Architects on behalf of the University of Montana of their intent to construct 4 new parking lots on campus and a monument or welcome sign in Rankin Park. The University of Montana is a government agency, and City Council is authorized to hold a public hearing when the agency proposes to develop or use public land contrary to Title 20 zoning regulations. In this case, UM is proposing surface parking lots that do not meet the landscaping requirements and a sign that does not meet the signs chapter of Title 20 zoning regulations. So last week there was a public forum for the Residence Hall. This is 2 different projects, the sign and parking lots we're gonna talk about together today. So here you can see the 4 proposed surface lots throughout campus. There's tennis court lot, Miller Hall lot, Aber Hall lot, and the Champion Center lot near the football stadium. Let's see, the sign location in Rankin Park. This is a little triangle parcel where Arthur, Maurice, and South 5th Street intersect there. So you can see it there, and you would see it when you're coming over the Madison Street Bridge. Now we can chat about zoning real quick. The University of Montana is zoned OP3 public lands and institutional parcels located to the south and west of the subject property are zoned R5.4 residential. Rankin Park is zoned OP1 open space, and universities are a permitted use in OP3 zoning districts, and parks are permitted in OP1. Okay. So we have our growth policy map up here. The applicable regional plan for this area is the 2035 Our Missoula City Growth Policy. Per the growth policy, the University of Montana and Rankin Park both have a land use designation of public and quasi-public. This designation is for land with structures or uses such as schools, airports, community buildings, cemeteries, and utility facilities. Surrounding land use designations include public and quasi-public and residential medium. There's a concentration of residential uses surrounding the University of Montana. The surrounding uses of the university are compatible with the land use designation outlined in the growth policy and this map here. The OP3 zoning district is a current relatable district in the public and quasi-public land use designation. However, OP1 is not a current relatable zoning district, but the use of Rankin Park parcel as a government-owned open space aligns with the land use designation. Right. So as you're familiar, public forums are available as a tool for government agencies that propose land use contrary to local zoning regulations. So this is outlined in our Title 20 zoning regulations, as well as is included in Montana Code annotated. So whenever an agency proposes to use public land contrary to local zoning regulations, a public hearing must be held to allow for comment on the proposed use, and the agency shall attend the public hearing. City Council does not have the power to deny or condition the request. University of Montana may move forward with the proposal following public forum. However, they may consider comment provided by the public. The University of Montana is considered a state government agency and are permitted to vary from zoning through this public forum process. The legal notice, legal ad for this public hearing for today's hearing was published on April 27th and May 4th. Notice was also published on our Engage Missoula website on April 23rd. Development Services sent mailings to owners within 150 feet of the subject property on April 26th, and notice was posted on the property as well on April 26th. So just to get into a little more of the details for you, all these plans are included in the application packet, which is attached to this agenda item online. If you want to take a little closer look at these, I do realize these are a little small. So here are the 4 parking lots. Clockwise from upper left, we have the tennis court lot, and then we have Miller Hall lot, the Champion Center lot, and the Aber Hall lot. This is a existing condition of Rankin Park, right off of the Madison Street Bridge where the monument sign is proposed. And again, these are some drawings and renderings of the proposed sign. So basically with the parking, they will not comply with 2 requirements of zoning code. So the proposed parking projects will not meet Title 20 street frontage landscaping and interior lot landscaping requirements. No new street frontage landscaping will be installed. While some landscaping is being proposed in the new parking areas, there are less landscaped islands than normally would be required by zoning. Overall, the 10% landscaping requirement for parking lots is not met for the tennis court lot, Miller Hall lot, and Champion Center lot. And then for the sign will not comply with 2 requirements of zoning code. The maximum area for a sign in OP1 zoning district is 24 feet. The sign will be approximately 100 square feet. The proposed sign exceeds maximum permitted area, and the maximum allowable height in the OP1 district is 6 feet, and the proposed sign will be 10 feet tall, approximately. All right, so staff does not have a recommended motion as no action is required for public forums. However, I did want to note that one public comment was received yesterday. The comment was in opposition to 2 of the lots. That comment has been attached to this agenda item as well. And there were no other comments received for this. Thank you for your time. City staff and representatives from the University of Montana are available.
Great, thank you very much, Mr. Sand. Representatives from the University of Montana, you're welcome to come on up if you wish to be part of the presentation this evening. No pressure, but you're welcome to come on up. And I don't know if there's anybody online from the university or if anybody wants to speak there. Come on up.
So I'm Barbara Skisick, Skeesick. We also have Jeff Smith and Kate Dinsmore. So available to answer any questions or concerns that may come up during this inquiry.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for making yourself available. Yep. City, as Mr. Sand described, City Council has no decision-making authority, but we are here to basically host the public forum and, the public hearing and opportunity for public comment. I do believe council has the opportunity to ask questions. So if there's any council questions, yes, Councilor Carlino.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to ask questions. I know this is a little bit outside of, and I know we're just holding this not to take a vote on it or anything, but I am curious, this is a lot of land space at the university. Was there other ideas floated around besides just turning all this land into asphalt for parking cars? Like any ideas that we could have used that land for instead?
Well, I think one of the major concerns there is we're taking away a lot of parking where the new residence hall is going. And so in order to provide parking for students to accommodate the new residence hall, this is in one way to give back so the students actually have somewhere to park is sort of the Miller Hall area. So, and then the other one that's outside of the UC, we are actually leaving a tennis court and 3 pickleball courts and a basketball court. So there is some community gathering spaces being incorporated there as well. In addition, just a quick little comment on the landscaping piece too. We are actually putting in trees and shrubs and plants. Just the requirement being to replace like for like on mature trees is really where the requirement isn't met. But there are certainly additional trees and shrubs and plants being added as far as in addition to the parking lots. So.
Great. Thank you for that context. Other questions from council? Not seeing any. All right. So we will not be making a motion this evening, but we will open this up to public comment. So is there any public comment on this agenda item this evening? Sure, come on up. Say your name and spell your last name, please.
Hi, thanks. My name is Adam Cook, C-O-O-K. I work on campus and live on the north side, and I just wanted to speak in opposition to the creation of the new surface parking lots. I think that the U of M is a huge public asset that's entrusted with putting that to the highest and best use, and I think that essentially just abandoning this to be paved over is essentially selling that land for scrap. I feel pretty strongly that there are other uses, hypothetical ones in the future. They don't necessarily have to be proposed now, but there are other uses that would generate, orders of magnitude more benefit in terms of ability to accommodate more students, ability to generate revenue for the university, ability to create capital improvements, more student housing, more lab and teaching space, anything like that. Those are all hypothetical things in the future that are going to be very difficult to claw back from this surface parking use. I also feel pretty strongly that the city of Missoula has a strong, compelling interest in advocating against this, and I'd like to see city council take make a statement against this or take a uniform position. This is just incentivizing more commuting by car to campus, which in turn puts a lot more wear on city infrastructure while not creating any more revenue for the city. This is essentially just it's just taking more money for the city and not giving any benefit. It's not enabling the university to accommodate any more students. However, that said, I also don't want to fault the university solely for this issue. I think that as we go into the process of code reform here in the next year, I think this is a really important teachable moment, and we are essentially getting what we zoned for. This is we're reaping what we sowed in terms of getting more people living further away from campus because we've effectively made it illegal to build student housing anywhere within walking distance of campus. I think we need to make drastic and decisive zoning reforms in the university district, and I think that this is a good time to reflect on that because this is what we get when we are several decades behind on that. So, thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Cook. Are there other public comment tonight? Come on up.
Weird to have my back to you, but okay. My name is Lily, and I'm a recent graduate from UM. One of the deciding factors for attending UM was the sense of place. It was cozy and welcoming, and it felt connected to the community and the landscape surrounding it, something I couldn't find elsewhere. I've spent most of my undergrad degree working for UM Housing and living in Aberhall, Turner, and Panzer. And having lived with and supported students for over 4 years, I can tell you where you live really matters. I've seen how students with challenges already stacked against them and used to the peace and quiet of rural Montana decide to leave, with late night noise and lights from closed parking lots being the final straw. I've seen how students isolate when spaces aren't available during COVID. Spaces that provide the opportunity to cultivate a sense of belonging and community are so important. They attract students like me and impact student success and retention. Parking lots create late night noise, radiate heat towards buildings, and take away communal spaces. The top of UM's website boasts that we approach everything with creativity because that's what this evolving world needs. We are stewards of this place, its history, and our future. So as a steward of place, I ask if we are investing in cultivating spaces where people can truly thrive. I know parking is a constant challenge, and I do not envy your job. I know it seems like I'm one more person that's complaining, but parking is a complex problem and requires complex, stacked solutions. Otherwise, we'll all be standing right here again in just another year or two. We are a community and school known for our environmental care and bold climate goals, and I'm unconvinced that parking at the expense of place aligns with the vision and image we preach. There are tough decisions and sacrifices, but we cannot expand forever. We'll have to figure out alternative solutions eventually, and I hope that can be done before we have sacrificed spaces that truly add value to campus. Places that attract students like me and help retain students once they're there. There are other alternatives that have not been fully explored. Morning versus afternoon parking passes, freshman Build-A-Bike classes, incentives for sustainable travel, scheduling adjustments. I'm sure my fellow students could come up with many more. We boast creativity, so let's lean into it. We have an institution full of minds ready to make an impact, and there are plenty of alternative options. I hope we can do this and expand people-centered spaces over temporary convenience. Thank you.
Lily, thank you for your comment. And before you go, if you have a last name, if you could say and spell that for the record, please.
Simcoe, S-I-M-K-O.
Right into the microphone. Just go right up to it.
Simcoe, S-I-M-K-O.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments. Thank you for coming down. Are there other public comments this evening on this agenda item? Mr. Sayer. Hello.
Good evening. Jim Sayer, and I'm at 435 McLeod. Last name's S-A-Y-E-R. Well, I want to align myself with the prior two speakers. That was really eloquent, and I was so surprised by this proposal. I saw the notifications that staff put out through the public noticing system and all, but I hadn't heard about this, and I texted and emailed Rick Karen, who's the head of University Council, Neighborhood Council, and he said, oh, I've heard rumors about this. Well, we'll see what's coming down the pike. And so I know UM prides itself on trying to have good relations with adjacent neighborhoods, but it doesn't really sound like a lot has happened. I first found out about this on the weekend. Somebody had done an OG flyer, just black and white, Xeroxed, and that's how I found out there was even something afoot. So I don't think anybody really knows about this. I asked a lot of neighbors really briefly a couple hours ago along Arthur, and nobody knows about it. So I feel like this is the first forum to discuss having two pretty big parking lots on UM. And I think it would be unfortunate for a lot of reasons. I did send a quick email off to council that you can look at. But I really believe that it would be important for us to work with the consultants and whoever the staff powers that be at UM to figure out a better way. This is really going backwards. I don't know if you remember the pictures, but remember that the walkway around the Oval used to be a driveway. You can see cars driving all over. This is a much better campus now that it does have that sense of place that Lily alluded to. It really is going backwards in terms of the campus's sustainability policy, your sustainability policy, our Missoula sustainability policy, our desire to limit greenhouse gases. As Adam said, this is just going to incentivize more driving, whether it's internal combustion or e-vehicle. So I just want to say, I think this is a good start for opening a conversation about whether this is really a good idea. I encourage you to walk over to the spaces that they're going to pave over, including the area behind Miller Hall. Lily made some great points about what it feels like to walk out of your dorm into a big sea of asphalt versus what's there now, and the chance for interaction and just feeling safe in that place. I know you can't take a formal vote. I know the law is not going to work that way, but you can certainly play a key role as legislative leaders for the city and as people who can articulate what Missoula is really about. I'll end by saying, do any of you go to the president's lectures? You know, President Bodner's lectures where he invites famous people to talk to students and the community. Anybody go? Yep. So anyways, the most popular one of all I've ever been to in 20 years of attending those was last fall It was jammed at the University Ballroom, and I'll finish, I promise. And it was Robin Wall Kimmerer, braiding sweetgrass. The University Ballroom was jammed. They had to turn away many hundreds of people who couldn't attend, who had to watch on MCAT. And it was an amazing talk about how we commit stewardship, how we take care of a place, and especially the campus. And I remember President Bodnar getting up and talking about exactly that. And if we start paving over the campus in a way that all other cities in America, all their major cities, all these other places are going the opposite direction now, including us. We're going that way in code reform. We're saying, hey, we're not going to incentivize parking anymore as we've done in our code for over 50 years. It doesn't make sense. So anyways, please step up, help us out on this. I think this is a start. Hopefully it's not the end, because I'd be curious to hear from the representatives where this project is actually at. Is it just a proposal, or have they got plans in 2 months to start paving? I don't know. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Sayer. Are there other public comments on this agenda item this evening? Okay, not seeing any in the room. How about online? Not seeing any hands raised online. All right. So that more or less concludes the public forum aspect of this agenda item. City Council have had a chance to ask questions. Again, there is no decision-making space for City Council this evening. Per state law, we are basically a conduit for a public forum. And so Mr. Sands will make sure that the comments shared this evening from the public are shared with the University of Montana. There's a representative here as well. Those will also be located in the minutes of this meeting. And I do believe that concludes this agenda item. Okay. Thank you all very much. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for being in attendance. Okay. That wraps up then all of our public hearings and public forums. We do not have any new business this evening, so we'll move on to the consent agenda. Councilor Vasecka has asked that we separate item 8.3, so those will move to the regular business. And so we only have then 2 items on the consent agenda. So Ms. Trimble, if you'll read those for the audience, and then we'll go ahead and take council questions and public comment. Thank you.
Sharing my screen for these 2 small items. On number 8.1, we will be approving accounts payable or claims for checks dated May 14th, 2024 in the amount of $371,098.98. And we will be reappointing Dwight Easton as a regular member and Missoula County resident to the Impact Fee Advisory Committee, also known as IFAC. This member is in good standing and has the support of staff and reappointment to a new term. The new 4-year term begins immediately and will end on November 30th, 2027.
Thank you, Ms. Trimble. Any other items wish to be separated by council members? Okay, not seeing any, then we'll go ahead and do since we do have an item that has been separated, if you'll go ahead and do a roll call vote on this item, please, Ms. Trimble.
You mean on the 2 items I read?
Yes, please. On the consent, sorry.
All right, on the consent agenda, items 8.1 and 8.2, beginning with Campbell.
Yes.
Carlino.
Yes.
Farmer.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Jordan.
Yes.
Melson.
Yes.
Nugent.
Yes.
Savage.
Yes.
Sherrill.
Yes.
Vasecka.
Yes.
Anderson.
Yes.
And Becerra.
Yes.
And that passes unanimously with 12 in favor, none opposed.
Thank you very much. My deep and sincere apologies. I forgot to ask for public comment on those 2 consent agenda items. So even though that passed unanimously, I will take a moment to see if there's anybody that wishes to comment on those 2 agenda items for the consent agenda this evening. Okay, not seeing any in the room. How about online? Okay, not seeing any online either. Sorry about that. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate that. All right. We move on to regular business, and so 8.3 was moved down to regular business in the Climate Conservation and Parks Committee report. And so we won't have necessarily a staff presentation on this evening because it was placed on the consent agenda. But we'll go ahead and open this up, questions from council, and I'll turn this over to Councilor Vasecka.
I don't have any questions, but I'll comment when that's the appropriate time.
Okay, great. Any questions from council before a motion gets made for this item? And I'll look to the chair for this. All right, no other questions. So I will look to the chair for the Climate Conservation and Parks Committee. Councilor Savage, would you please read the motion?
Yes, I move that we approve and authorize the mayor to sign the revised interlocal agreement with Missoula County and the city of Bozeman to continue working with our mutually secured consultants on a green power program that meaningfully advances our shared clean energy goals in the amount of $40,000.
All right, thank you very much. And I'll go ahead and take public comment on this item if there's anybody in the audience that wishes to make public comment on this agenda item. Not seeing any. How about online? Not seeing any online. Then we'll go ahead and turn it over to discussion. Councilor Vasecka.
Thank you. First of all, I wanted to apologize to Jennifer. I emailed the mayor and the clerk, but did not email you to prepare you for that. So sorry about that. Regarding this agreement, I am concerned about the potential cost increases for our consumers due to a green tariff program. Clean energy should be complementary to what we currently rely on, and 100% clean energy implies a complete shift away from fossil fuels, and that concerns me on how we will heat Montana homes in the winter months, especially because our electric buses rely on diesel generators for winter heating. I'm also cautious about hiring consultants who may prioritize the 100% clean energy goal, regardless of how it may impact the financial well-being of our community. And this may have been approved in the budget, but as it is in front of us all for a vote, it is my right to vote against this if I am uncomfortable with it, as it is my colleagues' right to vote for this. And since I am uncomfortable with this agreement, I am not in support of it tonight.
Thank you for your comments, Councilor Vasecka. And Councilor Sherrill.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to comment and say that this will be, I've been involved in this for quite a while. This will be an opt-in program, so no one is going to be just signed up for this. You will have to say that you want to be part of it. This is a collaboration with, as we had said, the city of Missoula, Bozeman, and Northwestern Energy, the county is Missoula County as well, sorry, and Northwestern Energy. So you know, it will be the single largest thing to get us through our clean energy goals. It will be a great opportunity for people in Missoula, both corporations, large energy users, including the city itself, to be on renewable energy. So I, for one, I know we've been working on this for a very long time. I'm so there have been people that said we'd never get to this point, and we're here, and so we still have a number of other steps that we need to go through, but I, for one, am just very excited that we are going to have this opportunity to make a real shift in our community and to offer this as an option, not something that we're sneaking onto people's bills. The PSC hopefully would never allow that anyway. So it's going to be very transparent, and I know that we have a number of large businesses that are interested in signing up for this as well. So I think people having to opt in and people knowing what they're getting it's to me, I respectfully disagree with my colleague. I'm very excited about it, so I'm going to vote for it. And I'm kind of glad she separated, just so I could say all that stuff about it.
Thank you, Councillor Sherrill. Councillor Campbell?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I share many of the same concerns my colleague, Councilwoman Vasecka, has with just the long-term implication of this program. I also brought up some concerns last committee insofar as, you know, our obligation for the expenditure and how that relates to the other agencies involved and their role in this. And we're not going to hold up, for lack of a better phrase, their end of the bargain, so to speak. And those concerns are still with me. I also have concerns with where this is going to go. I don't think I got a clear answer in terms of, it's kind of hard to say where it's going to go in terms of Public Service Commission, how they're going to look at it, how they're going to review it, given the makeup of the PSC in recent years. So for the concerns that I've had from last committee meeting, in combination with the concerns brought up by my colleague, Councilwoman Vasecka, I also will not be in support of this. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor Campbell. Are there other council comments this evening? Oh, thank you, Councillor Carlino.
Yeah, I'll be in support of this. I think it'll help get a small amount of renewable energy onto the grid. It looks like about 50 extra megawatts. I just want to remind everybody that Northwestern Energy is trying to build 4 new gas plants in Montana for 800 megawatts total of fossil fuel energy. Right now, we're majority renewable energy in Montana, and they're going to make us majority fossil fuel energy once again if their plans go through. So I think overall this program looks helpful and good, but at the end of the day, we need to force Northwestern Energy to not build these gas plants and to get off of fossil fuels if we want to actually make progress to stop the climate crisis. But I think this is a good partnership with people that are, well, with a company that's doing very terrible things to Montana and has, you know, not the best intentions with our energy grid and climate and people's energy bills. But if we can partner with them to do something positive, and they like it because they're just going to make more money off of this too, I think it's still worth doing. So I'm happy to support it.
Thank you, Councillor Carlino. Councillor Nugent.
Thank you, Mayor Davis. I would just say that, you know, well, I guess I'll just be blunt. The state of Montana is failing on this issue, and there is nobody leading on this issue if it's not places like the city of Missoula. And, you know, we talk all the time about the powers that cities have. And one of the things we don't have is to eliminate fossil fuels or any of those things. Those are options. People have them. That is not something the city's doing. But I think a project like this can maybe show the rest of the state that we can take step forwards in Montana, like so many of our neighbors in the West who are actually doing a good job leading on this issue. So I think this is a perfect opportunity to do something that very much aligns with the values of the majority of voters in our community. And I will happily support it, and I hope we can do more.
Thank you for your comments, Councillor Nugent. Any other council comments this evening? Okay, not seeing any and not seeing any online. Then, Ms. Trimble, we will move to a roll call vote on this agenda item.
All right, moving to a vote on item, well, it was formerly 8.3 on the consent agenda, beginning with Carlino.
Yes.
Farmer.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Jordan.
Yes.
Melson.
Yes.
Nugent.
Yes.
Savage.
Yes.
Sherrill.
Yes.
Vasecka.
No.
Anderson.
Yes.
Becerra.
Yes.
And Campbell.
No.
And that's 10 in favor, 2 opposed.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Trimble. That item passes. Thanks, everybody, for the conversation. That wraps up our regular business. Now we'll move on to public comment on non-agenda items. Offer it up to folks in the room. We limit our public comment to 3 minutes. Please say your name and spell your last name, please. Come on up. If anybody has any public comment this evening on non-agenda items.
Big K Montana Spitzmacher, Spitzmacher. And your last agenda item, what a joke. If you think you're gonna turn off the gas electrical system, turn off your lights and unplug your electrical cars and sit at home. That's the way that's gonna be. Because there's not enough wind here to generate power, and neither is sun, unless you're in Great Falls. So anyways, my old business is the Poverello. Item dispatch number 2024-16-542. The thievery that's respected, that's caught on camera, that was forwarded to Jill Bonney and Claire Pott has gone nowheres. So the embracement of the theft, which is probably trivial, less than $100. The principle that we advocate stealing, and I hear so much of that stealing that goes on at Johnson Center and to an extent at the Poverello Center. It seems like it's common business, like legislating here at the council meeting. That's all right. My second order of business is it seems to be realized nobody cares. And may I hear your refrain of amusement? The city attorneys or the district attorney don't seem to reach out to those emails with Ms. Bott and Bonnie. The toxic stress that has caused me has been noticed by some high quality people. And that seems to be the contributing factor of the management that trickles through our society, as we heard from the Chamber of Commerce, Mark, the chairman of Commerce at the meeting that the mayor presided over at the Stockman Bank. Better pay attention to him, because I'm going to start encouraging business owners to reach out to him and turn up the heat better than the electric plant. And lastly, with this, the staff seems to have a personal realizing to me as the equivalent of stalking of my personal well-being of whatever it may be. That seems to be a consensus of the staff that I'm trouble. Well, trouble's here to speak to you. Does anybody reach out to the management of the Poverello that who finances the Poverello? The taxpayer? Who represents the taxpayer here? Oh, hell no, let's not bring those into the circus. And in regards to the septic system, you better prepare for a bigger treatment plant, as Green Bay has, it does Brown County.
Thank you, Mr. Spitzmacher. Other public comment on items not on the agenda this evening?
I got some good advice.
Wait till you're at the microphone, sir. Thank you.
My advice is do not get old. It's not all it's made up to be. Two or three points.
Mr. Moore, please make sure you identify yourself first.
I'm sorry, Robert Moore, M-O-O-R-E.
Thank you.
Same as it was a few minutes ago. This gentleman was speaking about his neighborhood, and he led you to believe that the city had money problems. Did y'all get that point? He mentioned the city has money problems and discussed things like a sidewalk not get fixed. He is actually wrong in what he said, because money is not the problem. What certain people who have the powers and the decision-making authorities wants to do certain things, like buy a mountain. Everybody wants to buy a mountain, don't they? Everybody wants to buy a mountain. I want to ask the attorney. There's a law on the books of Missoula that says you can see it. I'm making a public announcement that I wish to see the application and all documentation, electronic also, of the bank that used the taxpayers' money to do something they wanted to do. So therefore, the citizens should pay for it. They should pay for it. Don't y'all think they should pay for it? I think they should pay for it. Recently, you approved a $9 million bond to build some housing units. $9 million, interest for whatever, 25 years, another few $1 million. I'd like to see the application for that money, all correspondence, all documents, any telephone calls, anything else in their submission to the city council. And if anybody objects to it, well, we're going to fight it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Moore. Other public comment on items not on the agenda this evening?
Hi, my name's Garth Whitson, W-H-I-T-S-O-N, Mayor, Council. Thanks for your indulgence. I just wanted to offer a comment on the area I live in and work in, which is lucky enough right downtown. I live and work right around the bridge, have for a long time. And I saw the construction of the new bridge, and that was all very, very good and everything. But walking around and working in that area as much as I do, I think I can speak to what I see as a nearly total absence of any monitoring or enforcement of any traffic regulations throughout that corridor. And to the point of, I think quite a few pedestrians and bicyclists and even motorists have to feel pretty well endangered going through there. It's kind of the Wild West. I don't know if any of you have ever spent an hour near the bridge, but the speed limit is 25, which is ridiculous. I mean, that is completely a joke. You're going to get run over if you go 25. The average is probably 35 to 40 over that bridge. I don't know what it is about the bridge, but everybody goes crazy on that thing. They think it's just a drag strip. You know, there's no cops on it, of course. So you've got high speed coming off it, going on it. It's like they took a quarter mile of Reserve Street and dropped it into the middle of downtown and thought that was a good idea. I don't think it is. It destroys any sense of, okay, you're downtown, slow down. You know, there's pedestrians everywhere. There's a high school 2 blocks away, just 2 blocks away. You know, those kids are going out for lunch and riding their bikes through there. A bunch of people work in that area, more and more too. They're going to develop that Missoulian building, so that's going to be more cars, more people living, walking. And I don't see cops down there, you know, and I'm through there, I'm not kidding, probably 8 times a day, as much as anybody. I don't know who's down there more than I am, on foot and in my car. And I've been watching this for years go on down there, and it's worse now than ever. So is that time up?
That's time up.
All right. I would humbly ask for some attention to this matter before someone, gets badly hurt or killed.
Thank you very much for your comments this evening. Others in the audience wishing to make public comment on items not on the agenda tonight?
You need a taller mic stand. My name's Jeffrey Oswald, OSWALD. Really didn't have any plan to say anything tonight, but there was something that came to mind. I've talked to a friend of mine the other day who he camps outside. He used to work at the same location I did, a group home, and I've introduced him to people as one of the best people I've ever met. Really good-hearted, conscientious person, but he's got some mental health problems that have made it difficult for him to maintain a job. And he told me that, referring to the shelters in town, that there are reasons why, the reason that he doesn't stay at those is that he feels it compromises his mental health. And I got to thinking about it, and during the 20 plus years I worked for Opportunity Resources, we had training in a crisis intervention and resolution system called the MANT system, which is really an excellent resource for people who are working in the field of helping people with mental illnesses or developmental disabilities or anything of the sort, working with people and that might be at odds with each other at some point. And I spoke with a couple of staff people at the Johnson Center one night and asked them if they had anything like that in their training. And what I was told is that the Poverello offers MANT training. However, they do not require it. And that leads to people who are employees of there not choosing to take the training that's available. And it would be a real asset to anybody working in that environment in resolving disagreements and problems that arise between folks in the Johnson Center or Poverello that are mentally ill or even under the influence of substances that bring about aberrant behavior. What I thought might be a good idea is, and I would request that if the council has any sway with the Poverello's management, maybe shifting the MANT training from optional to required training for the people there. And it might end up helping, well, I definitely think that it would help resolving conflicts that arise between the people who are staying there and make a safer environment for everybody there and one that people are more inclined to engage with. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Oswald. And just a quick question for you. MAN training as an M-A-N?
M-A-N-T-D, MANT training.
Thank you. All right. Others that wish to make public comment on items not on the agenda? I'm not seeing any here in the room. How about online? Not seeing any online either. Okay. That wraps up our public comment on items not on the agenda, and we'll shift quickly to general comments, communications from the mayor. I just have two quick comments. One, I forgot to address that we have stanchions in the room, and thought I would briefly speak to that as an effort we've been making to set clear expectations for council, the public, and staff. We are attempting to limit folks that enter the horseshoe, the space in here, mostly so we can improve security's ability to maintain situational awareness of the room. And so we're constantly keeping the safety of the public, safety of the staff, safety of council and the mayor in mind as we hold these public forums. And so if you were curious, that's why they're there. You do have to do the limbo to go to the bathroom, so we could see about maybe making some adjustments there. The other thing I just wanted to quickly comment on, again, I wanted to thank council members and members of the public for participating in the Urban Camping Working Group. We held 5 sessions. That has been concluded, and I wanted to just mention that our next steps for that is that in the next few weeks, we'll have the final report. That'll include the facilitator's summary as well as the working group comments. And then once we receive those, my administration will put together a strategy to implement those recommendations. And I would appreciate the opportunity to work with President Sherrill to schedule an information referral so I can bring those forward. We can present on those. And we'd also like to make this full set of information public, and so news to come on that. We'll probably be posting that on our regular website, but the exact location is yet to be determined, so we'll make sure that we make that available to the public. This is all in advance of the budget process that we are already starting. Wednesday's committee is the second of 2 budget updates for FY24, and then we launch into the process for FY25's budget, so good timing on that front. That concludes my comments, and I'll go ahead and turn it over to councillor comments, and I'll start with Councillor Carlino.
Thanks. I guess I just had some thoughts about the parking thing earlier at UM. I mean, certainly we don't have a say in that, but you know, our parking mandates as a city, we're making it to where people can't build any residential or commercial outside of the CBID or outside of the downtown district without building a certain amount of turning a certain amount of that space into asphalt for parking. And if we're talking about climate things that the city can and can't do, this costs no money. We could just get rid of the parking mandates. And you know, this is just a really bad climate policy. So I just wanted to point that out, I guess, for a 10th time. But there's been barriers put up between constituents and council in the last 6 months, more and more. Now a physical barrier at the meetings to where people can no longer come up and talk to us before or after the meeting like they could before. Before people could email the entire city council at once, now that's gone. Before people could show up at any city council meeting on a Monday night at 6 p.m. and say what they have to say to the local government, and now that's pushed back to the end of the meeting. More and more things that are making it harder and harder for people to come talk to their local government. And I think we should take down these barriers. The physical barriers we should take down. There's no reason for those. And these other logistical barriers that are making it harder and harder for people to talk to their local government. I feel like it's kind of gonna slowly change city policy for the worse. The harder and harder we make it for people to email us, talk to us, etc. So I say we take down the barriers, physical and all these internet email barriers, and you know, making it easier to where people could public comment at the beginning of the meeting rather than put the proclamations at the beginning. We could just put public comment there like it used to be. I've seen way too many people walk out of the meeting without getting their comments heard. So I think we should change that back and take down these barriers.
Thank you, Councillor Carlino. Councillor Campbell?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to bring to the public's attention that this week of May is National Police Week, and here in Missoula that culminates specifically on Wednesday, May 15th, which is recognition of our fallen officers here in Missoula County at the Law Enforcement Memorial at Rose Park. Just a little bit of background I found from National Law Enforcement Officers Association. 1962, President Kennedy proclaimed May 15th as National Peace Officers Memorial Day, and the calendar week in which May 15th falls as National Police Week. Established as a joint resolution of Congress in 1962, National Police Week pays special recognition to those law enforcement officers who have lost their lives in the line of duty for the safety and protection of others. So again, just bring everybody's attention, May 15th, 6 p.m. Rose Park on the southern end is the Missoula Law Enforcement Officers Memorial. There'll be a commemoration, a ceremony that'll take place at 6 p.m. That evening. So invite members of the public in this body to partake. So
thank you, Councillor Campbell. All right. Councillor Farmer.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll pass.
Okay. Thank you. Councillor Vasecka.
I just wanted to say I learned a new word today. I've never known what those were called, so thank you. And then after that, I'll pass.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Yes, all right.
I just can't, I'm sorry.
No, it's your time.
Real quickly, just nobody who probably needs to hear this is still in the room, but the public forums are another example of the failures of state government and passing the buck. we hold public forums for other government entities who we have no ability to regulate, such as the county, the university. There's some other examples, and really a lot of times, I believe, as one commenter made, this is the first time the public ever hears about these items. And sometimes I think that's by design. Though I will say that everything that we've heard of the last 2 weeks for the university has been available on the Regents website. If you just Google Montana Board of Regents, you can find it. The parking stuff you kind of have to dig in and find. But that system could be better. So, apologies for anybody in the room who wants us to take a stand on something we have no ability to take a stand on. This actually was a change 2 legislative sessions ago because they thought that city council or the public body holding a public hearing would somehow make the public more aware of these things, but all I think it's done is made it more frustrating for people. So,
Thank you for your comments, Councilor Nugent. Yeah, Councilor Melson. Okay, President Sherrill.
I just want to bring it to people's attention that we, on May 22nd, will be starting the budget for next year. We're going to be doing a Budget 101 training. Just kind of a reminder for council, but also I think it'd be valuable for the public that wants to further understand the budget, as well as going over our calendar. So I think the calendar that's coming up is going to be really important if you want to weigh in on certain departments or pay attention to certain departments. I also want to just say that the farmers market's back, so keep that in mind.
All right, thank you for your comments. Councilor Savage.
I just had a couple brief things. One is that you all may know that the North Missoula Community Development Corporation is in the business of land trust homes, and there are a couple available. So if anyone is interested, these are these have already been built. These are not new. They're just changing hands, and so they have a couple that they have for sale right now. I also wanted to say that for those of you who don't know, Garth owns Shakespeare and Company, the bookstore on the Hip Strip, and so the bridge he's referring to is the Higgins Street Bridge, if that wasn't noticed in context. And with that, with downtown traffic, I've been spending a lot of time running lately, and I have also noticed similar things, and particularly from the Hip Strip to downtown. I take it upon myself as a city councilor to maybe kind of holler at out-of-state drivers when they are driving way too fast downtown. And this weekend was one of those weekends. Farmers market started, graduation, Mother's Day, people were everywhere downtown, and there were, I mean, more than once, trucks like just speeding down Higgins Ave. I happened to have Mother's Day lunch at Trayvon, and the doors were open, and it was noticeable just how fast people were going. And I bring this up also because a former Missoula family did lose a son because of traffic on Orange Street at Craig and Orange. He passed away Saturday morning, and that was due to a motorcycle accident that had happened a week before. So I do appreciate you coming in, and I do appreciate us thinking about some of these things that could possibly calm traffic as we're talking about our downtown corridor. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Councilor Savage. Councilor Anderson.
Thanks so much, Madam Mayor. 2 quick things. I want to encourage everybody to make sure that they thoroughly look at the ballot. It turns out that the fire levy is on the back page. So it is we need to turn that over to vote for that fire levy. And ballots are out for everyone who receives an absentee ballot, unlike the city council elections and the school board elections where everybody gets a mail-in ballot. Everyone in this election, it's only those who have signed up for a permanent absentee, which is easy to do and you don't have to have an excuse. And then there will also be folks who will be going to the polls on Tuesday, June 4th. So take part in your democracy. It is a right that you have, and it's important that you do so. I want to thank everybody who came out to City Club today. We had a really great discussion about the fire levy, and had a great chance to spend some time with Chief Hughes, educating folks about what it is that they ask and why we're asking. And then the second thing is I had another opportunity this afternoon to spend some time with Missoula Fire Department as the Office of Emergency Management rolled out the Pulse Point app that Missoula is going to be providing for its community. And what this is allows people who are CPR certified or CPR trained to log on to the app, and if you're in a public place and 911 has been called because they suspect a cardiac emergency, it will ping you if your phone is in the area and let you know. And they have found huge success in this for twofold reasons. One, CPR training has significantly changed over time as we learn more about how the body works and blood and oxygen. And back when I learned, there was a whole component about mouth to mouth and numbers of compressions, and now it's really just considered hands only. So it may feel better for folks who may not know the person who is having a cardiac arrest just to be working on doing compressions to help circulate the blood versus having to do mouth to mouth. And that second matter when you're having a heart attack. And as we have been hearing from Chief Hughes, obviously the Missoula Fire Department wants to get to your call within 6 minutes. We're averaging about 8.5 minutes now. And the doctors say that the first 3 minutes are the most important when a cardiac event is happening. So if you are somebody who is willing to be a helper and sign up for Pulse Point, I encourage you to do so. If you want to get refreshed on CPR or learn CPR for the first time, the Missoula Fire Department will be hosting community trainings. The Office of Emergency Management will also be having trainings, pop-up trainings, such as at the farmers market and various spots around the community. The goal is to train and have 20,000 people in our community who are on the Pulse Point app. So Missoula is a community full of helpers, and this is your opportunity to continue to do that and possibly save someone's life. Thanks so much.
Excellent. Thanks for that public service announcement. All right, appreciate that. And going online here, Councillor Jordan.
Thank you. I just wanted to support my colleague, Mr. Carlino, and his discussion about kind of how we're making it harder for folks to get a hold of us. I do believe that the city is acting in good faith and that this is not intentional, but we're starting to see some side effects of these rules that we put in place, and that folks are having a hard time emailing us. And, week after week, we're seeing people getting up and leaving before they can make it to public comment. And I think this is concerning because folks come to us because they want our assistance. And so if we're creating barriers, then we need to reevaluate those. And so I'll be in touch with y'all about some ways perhaps we can make it better for folks to get in touch with us. The other piece I wanted to talk about is that the fourth reentry simulation event is coming up on June 22nd. There are two. There's one on June 22nd and one on June 27th and one on June 28th. So it is a ways out, but get it into your calendar, because during these simulations, participants try to complete required tasks while encountering the barriers that may contribute to feeling helpless, and it's in relation to folks who've been incarcerated and what it's like when they get out of jail or prison, and the barriers that they have to overcome just to get housing, get a job, balance all of the things that come with incarceration and the unintended and the intended consequences of incarcerating folks. And I think it's particularly poignant as we're seeing a lot of our unhoused neighbors being upcharged with felony charges. I think that what this ends up doing to our unhoused folks is it adds an additional layer that will make it harder for them to find a home because they are now convicted felons. So if you want more information about this reentry simulation, you can just Google the Missoula Interfaith Collaborative, because they're running the simulation, and there you can find out when and where. And it's a really robust experience about what it's like to have the barrier of being incarcerated and reentering our community. And it's pretty mind-blowing. So highly recommend everybody attend, and same with city councilors. If any of my colleagues haven't had a chance to attend, I highly recommend that you take the time to do that. And that is all for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you bringing that to our attention. That concludes our councilor comments this evening, general comments from city council members. And with that, we will go ahead and adjourn our May 15th meeting at 8:25 p.m. Thanks, everybody.